Welcome on in to 11 Personnel. Nick Roush, Adam Luckett. During the spring, the off season, it's officially here, and we're officially brought to you by our good friends at Monticello Bank. Just like 11 Personnel, we're here year round. They're here with you every step of the way with the Go NBC mobile app, whether you're at home, on the road, wherever you need a bank. They've been doing this for 128 years. They know what they're doing. It's where people matter at Monticello Bank. They're going to be there for you every single step of the way. And here's another thing too, like you're in the process of doing the home building experience. I've bought
That's
two
right.
homes. If you're making big purchases in your life, you can't go with the big national chains. They're not going to hook you up like a local bank, like NBC Bank. They will get the numbers working on your side. So visit them online right now. Go ahead, do it. That's at nbcbank.com or stop by one of their 21 branches in 14 different markets. There's one near you. NBC Bank, Monticello Bank, where people matter. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Luckett, they're Monticello Bank, a lot more reliable than the weather that you got to experience at Saturday's open practice. It's kind of
Yes.
like the weather we're getting now. Is Kentucky? Are we the windy state now? The windy city?
I think me and you have discussed this before. Like Lexington, it's got to be like the wind tunnel capital of the world, especially on campus there. I mean, it
Yeah.
just the wind gets going down there. And Nick, when me and Stephen Pete got there, like people, it was blowing so hard, like people were like losing their balance, like almost falling down. Um, that's the biggest wind I think I've been outside in for an extended period of time since that 2018 Vanderbilt game. I don't know if people
Oh
remember
gosh,
that.
that was off. That was the clip that they had on SEC Inside where Mark Stoops is like, run the
Yeah,
ball, and they just gave it to Benny Snell for like 10 straight carries
yeah.
to
I
go win the
remember I
game. It
was
was an ugly one.
talking to a friend of the program, Lonnie Demery, just walking out yesterday uh, from UK when we talked to Liam Cohen and Zach Yinzer and Kaya Sheridan and Destin Wade. Just like that was the most ridiculous win like since that point. I mean, it was crazy. Nick, you weren't there, but like the first series with the twos, they draw up a hard play action fake. Anthony Brown's running a deep over route.
Mm-hmm.
He's wide open. I mean, it's a 35, 40-ish yard pass. And Kaya Sharon's ball is online, and then it just flips, and it just goes to the other sideline. I mean, it was just like, well, what are we even doing here? And
Yeah.
so after that, you didn't see a vertical throw until Destin Wade threw a go ball on the last possession of the day and overthrew Anthony Brown. But there was no pushing the ball down the field, and so the defense got to play in a 15-yard box. Over time, we've been used to defenses playing Kentucky's offense in a 15-yard box, even when the weather is not permitting it. And Kentucky's offense I thought they struggled a little bit getting things going.
But like that's going to happen when you can't um, throw the ball down the field, right? Like that's going to be
Well, no Barry and Brown, no Kenneth Horsey,
yeah.
no Brendan Bates, no ass kicker, no Jordan Dingle. So that like you're talking that's 5 of the top 12, 13, 14 players on the offense ish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're missing a lot of firepower there. And so that I think all led to it. But my big takeaway from the spring is just I've been really pleased with what I've seen from this Kentucky defense at all three levels. Andrew Phillips really popped, Nick, on Saturday again. Like I think he's had one of the better springs, at least from where I've looked. I've been really pleased with what I've seen from him. And then Deion Walker still absolutely poor Tanner Bowles and Paul Rodriguez just. It was a tough day for there, the left guard trying to block big number 0. And then just everywhere else are just making plays. Jordan Lovett making plays, Zion Childress, dependable, other defensive linemen making plays. I've just really been pleased with what I've seen from Brad White's defense so far.
I played golf this weekend in some similar windy conditions, and there's a. Like, I'm
Oh,
not good at.
that's another sport. If you're out there in the wind, I mean, just hell with it.
It's
Like make you want to throw your 7-iron in the water. Yeah.
I'm up at a par 3 and it's like, well,
Yeah.
this ain't going anywhere near the green. Like it's just,
Yeah.
and then I did the thing where I tried to wait for the wind to die down. I'm like, come on,
Yeah, throwing grass up in the air.
yeah,
You're a
like
professional.
who am I kidding?
Yeah.
This ain't going anywhere. So that part is a little unfortunate. Maybe you can get away with that a little bit if you got Will Levis in there. But that's one reason why the defense performing well does not necessarily discourage me too much about big picture stuff, because I think a lot of this team's strengths, not to take away from other parts, but the tight end, having none of your tight ends that are going to be in your rotation. Like Cummings is going to play some, but like your 3 top inline guys are all out this spring. It's going to be tough to evaluate the offense. And the other time that we got to see them this spring, they performed fine. The offense looked crisp. Like
Yeah.
there's obviously some growth that needs to happen between now and opening day, but essentially from that Saturday, I think we had 3 texts into our radio show's text line today asking about the offensive line. Everybody's worried about the offensive line, and I'm just like, we don't need to, I'm not going to hit like a panic button or anything right away, because I just think it's difficult to judge this group when we're kind of at the ground floor, slowly working our way up without a full cupboard behind them to help them out.
Yeah. And I think a lot's kind of riding on Jagger Burton at center. Because I think if you can get good where you feel good about the interior 3, I think Marcus Cox, as long as he stays healthy, is going to be a solid tackle. That's 4 of the 5. You can deal with one donkey, Nick. Like if you got one bad apple there in the line, you can deal with one. You can't deal with multiple.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, like, teams are just going to take advantage of it and smell blood in the water. If you got multiple guys up there that are a little bit of revolving doors, guys that are getting beat consistently, that makes it tough you can't really scheme around that. You mentioned the tight end, right? That'll help out a lot, I think, the tackle. I think potentially backs and pass protection might need to be a thing this year for Kentucky to help out Leary. But yeah, I mean, that's, to me, like, Jagger's so important, and he's been probably the guy they've sung the praises of the most so far this spring. And obviously we all know his recruiting background. If he can hit, I think that would really help. And then the portal's out there, and what does Kentucky do at right tackle? That's a huge question. I don't know. I mean, Jeremy Flax is the starter. They're not saying it, but like, he's getting all the 1 reps, Nick, when we're there. Like, if they started the season tomorrow, he's playing most of those snaps. If they got Land, the guy from the portal, he's going to be your starting right tackle again. I think he's probably the favorite to be the right tackle regardless right now, because I'm not super confident they're going to find someone. We'll just have to see what happens here with guys going. I just don't know what the volume of transfers is going to be like here.
Right. Because
is it going to? It feels like it's going to be like the late signing day. Like, you're going to have some guys, and there's going to be some guys to note. But overall, you're just not going to have the volume. It's a shorter window. It's only 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I just don't know if you're going to be able to find a guy to take on. There.
And the other part that I'm not sure about too, because I do want to go back to the offensive line, but the other part of this equation that we discussed last week was how do the potential for getting a quarterback, right? That is further down the line. Maybe they're a former 4 or 5-star, lost out on a job at Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, and they're looking for another home. I'm wondering how. I'm just wondering if Saban or Kirby or any of these guys are going to let them know if they lost the job or not, right? Like, are those guys even going to hop in the portal now, or are they going to be waiting until ahead of the season? Like, I don't know if that's even going to be an availability, a possibility. So this is our first time dealing with the second transfer portal window, and I just have no clue what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I don't think most coaching staffs in college football have a good feel for it either. Like, how many players are they going to lose? It's very much a
Mhm.
feeling out process right now. So we're entering the land of the unknown a little bit. And so I
Mhm.
think best case scenario, Kentucky's able to find maybe like an FCS tackle, Nick, um, that they could get. Maybe there's been some tampering going on. Who knows? Uh, but I definitely think they talk like they're going to potentially they're definitely looking and want to add somebody. It's just,
Right,
does that
right.
develop? Uh,
Yeah, and it's
because
not as much
that's
time as
the big
the other
question.
one, so you just don't know, like, yeah, we just don't know. There's a
Yeah.
lot of unknown out there. So fingers crossed that they can get it done because, um,
Yeah, for
to
me, the
your
more likely, like, kicker's definitely likely. I think they're definitely probably going to be able to find a kicker, scholarship kicker here in the portal to get. I think off-ball linebacker. Definitely think they're going to, excuse me, be able to find somebody there to kind of plug in. I definitely think that's probably going to happen. Backup quarterback or right tackle are the two popular ones. I just don't know.
if
Is
it's
there
going
going
to
to be
be
a
them.
guy worth taking? Like, if
Exactly.
you could find a Sawyer Smith kind of, if you could find that in this class, like this group, I think that a guy like that could be potentially worth taking. A guy that can play a little bit to come in and compete against, to be kind of a measuring stick against the two guys you got right now. Um,
Yeah. There
to
wasn't a
figure out if
lot
he
of
come play
Cohen did a
competent
lot of
offense.
discussing about the backup quarterback position on Tuesday, and a lot of it felt, well, these are the guys we have here, kind
Yeah,
of. You know what I
I
mean?
thought
Like,
Destin Wayne looked good on Saturday. I liked what I saw from him. To me, he's fourth. Like, he's the fourth one in both practices we've seen. I'm just a little surprised by that because I thought
well, and
he looks the best out of all of them.
it,
And if you
I
had
bet it
tomorrow,
has
Nick,
to.
go
I
ahead.
bet it has to do with what he knows in the playbook.
Yeah,
I bet,
maybe.
right, like that, because
Like
that's
it,
what at least
right.
sounded like from Cohen.
If Kentucky had to play a game tomorrow, Monday Leary's out and you got a week to prepare. I just think putting a game plan in with Wade is going to give you a better chance to win. That's just how I feel. Now, I'm not at
Es-
practice every day.
Especially with the way that they're going to add some more RPOs in the mix there, and that kind of gets back to
He
the
made the best
offensive
throws
line.
of the day Saturday. Like,
Yeah.
he hit Kamari Anderson on a seam ball, put the ball on the guy's helmet. His go ball to Anthony Brown was just barely overthrown, but it was in the general vicinity, which I think was good to see. He managed the pocket well. He took off and ran when there was a big opening, and he made another throw on that drive that he hit a curl zone against a zone drop on like second and long. I think was right on time and delivered it and like didn't stare down the receiver. I, I liked what I saw from him. He's got that ball kind of whips out of his arm. He produces some nice velocity on the football. Uh, that's just that's just my 2 cents. And he adds run game value, Nick. If you had to go with a
Mhm.
backup, I would like the guy that can add an extra hat in the run game. When we start talking about that tight end, so you can get an extra blocker. Like, I think
Mhm.
he would have some value in. They're already running RPO stuff right now. Like,
Yeah.
they came out and said, and they were kind of disappointed, it sounded like, in some of the decisions Leary made.
Right.
But they're
Right.
already instituting some of that stuff from NC State's playbook, and letting Leary run some of that stuff. And if you're gonna run that with Wade, you can add the tag of having him, run some zone read type stuff on top of it. To me, I'm kind of surprised that he's fourth there. I thought, to me, he seems like maybe the best option after Leary on the roster right now. And I know people like want to drag him for that Iowa game, but like, dude,
That
that
Iowa
Iowa
defense
defense,
is, yeah.
Jack Campbell, Lucas Van Ness, Riley Moss, all went in McShay's um, 2-round mock yesterday. That's 3 top 60 picks they had on. And that's not even counting Cooper DeJean, who's going to be a high pick next year, who's returning. That's not counting their other defensive linemen that when
Jack
they come
Campbell
out will
had an
probably get
insane
drafted.
combine. His RAS score was crazy, which you just don't.
All of them had crazy
No.
combine scores. I mean,
Yeah.
that Iowa defense was ridiculous.
Yeah. So to kind of get back to the RPO stuff too, for this offensive line, the reason I'm not going, like, I'm going to take the coach's lead And this got you a good question hat tip from Lee and Cohen. They're definitely
Oh, been a while since I got that hat tip.
they're definitely doing the thing
Good
where
to
they're
see I still got it.
They don't want to knock their confidence too much. And
Yeah.
so if it's not, because essentially what Cohen said was, well, you know, a lot of those runs, it looked bad. Well, they shouldn't have been runs. They should have been passes. Like, they don't want to put more on this unit's plate than they should. They want to make it as easy as possible for them to have them succeed, to build up some wins, because hell, that's part, like, when you are trying to use your body to move another man's body against his own will, like, you got to have some confidence that you're just a badass. Like, it takes a lot. And I think this is you can hear it actively not only be brought up by the players in the meeting that they had early on this year that Kenneth Horsey and Eli Cox called, but also in just like the daily kind of reinforcements, right? So I'm going to give them like a little bit of breathing room, because it's got to be hard to go up against Deion Walker and Keyshawn Silver. Keyshawn Silver, there's a picture Aaron Perkins has of him. That dude looks like a column that could hold up a house. I mean, my God. Like, no wonder they're struggling in practice. Like, these dudes are going to be really good. So I'm going to at least give them some benefit of the doubt going into the season, where they have a little runway to beat up on some smaller foes in the MAC, to go beat up on Vanderbilt before they got to face Florida.
Yeah, that's a good segue here, Nick. I just want to say, like, it's just, they can say what they want, but, like, we all know what they're kind of at. It's just a huge year for Zach Inzer. Like, there's enough talent in that room where they should be able to figure out something. I'm not saying they need to be even good, but you got to be some level of respectable, and being able to come up with a succinct plan and figure it out. My big worry is if injuries come, because I can be convinced that they can probably put it together and have a decent line this year. But if you get one or two injuries, like, I think things could get snowball snowball fast on them.
I mean,
especially like if Marcus Cox goes out, where you at?
What do you do? Yeah, then you're back to kind of square one with sliding Horsey out and doing that whole long dance.
Yeah, so like that is the biggest concern. But to the defensive line, I think you bring up a great point. We've talked about Keyshawn Silver, talked about Deion Walker and being like this kind of this magnet in the middle where all the attention is going to be kind of focused to him. And that's going to open up opportunities, I think, for the rest of Kentucky's defensive line. Now, it's important to remember, like, Kentucky, schematically, their defensive line isn't designed to, like, record a bunch of tackles for loss, record a bunch of sacks, QB pressures. But you need to have some of that, and they need to have more of that than they had in the last few years. Because we've seen a defensive lineman can have huge years here. Just look at Josh Paschal. Just look at Calvin Taylor. Yeah, stat numbers can be accumulated in this scheme. And for me, you've got Walker's going to get all of this attention, and you've got a lot of experienced pieces around him. These guys need to start playing and making plays. And I think you've got a collection of guys that are all kind of entering contract years. When you look at Keyshawn Silver, second chance here at the Power 5, kind of knows, it's now or never. He goes to the portal. His only options were Kentucky and UConn. Kentucky takes a chance on him. He should be highly motivated, I think. And I think we've kind of seen that play out through spring camp. I think Octavius Oxendine, disappointing year last year. He's got to, it's all right. Come on, Ox. We heard Brad White talked about how he had to sit down with Josiah Hayes, kind of like it's not good enough. You know what the brand is. You know what the standard is. You need to play to that standard. If not, this guy from Carolina, Silver's really pushing you for playing time. I think Trayvon Ripka is another one. I don't think he really capitalized on that performance against Iowa, where he had a really big bowl game and really made some key plays down the stretch. There at filled in, replacing Josh Paschal. He kind of had a ho-hum year. So all these guys, and like at his position, you've got potentially Ox and Khalil Saunders, who's a guy I'm real high on. Like, you've got all these guys in kind of these high leverage, I think, situations, Nick, where they really have to perform. Like, time's running out. Like if they want to make a move, if they want to get to the next level, they really have to perform right now. And most of those guys are competing with each other.
Yeah.
So I think like if a couple of those guys hit, and then you've got Walker, who's just this monster in the middle, you could really have a potentially the pieces are there to have a good defensive line. Plus, you have all that coaching stability with White being here. Amor Stewart's in his 4th year as a defensive line coach, so they've heard the same voice for a long time. Like I think things are adding up where that defensive line could potentially. We've talked about the Big Blue Law for a long time. That could become like that could be a group of dudes, like playmaking dudes, like guys that a defensive line that you look up and it's like, wow, this is one of the better defensive lines in college football. And I think that is a potential this year, and that's exciting to me. And I think there's a lot of ingredients there where they could really make something special this season if just a couple things come together.
The you mentioned Josiah Hayes too as one of those guys, and Brad White had some encouraging comments about him last week. Where I mean, for lack of a better term, he just kind of got flat beat out by Dinkins towards the end of the year. Dinkins stole his reps because he wasn't cutting it, and Brad said they had a talk and was just like, "Listen, you've been here long enough. You got to be playing better. You have to." And it's not only just from an execution standpoint, but also from knowing what you're doing. He's just like, my expectations are higher. And he had a hard conversation with him. And as White put it, he didn't say it explicitly, but a lot of guys might just like, all right, screw this and hit the portal or something, you know? But Hayes has apparently really answered the challenge. That's what they needed from that spot, right? Because you don't, going into this year at a position where somebody gets hurt there every year, that just is inevitable. You can't just be relying on a guy who's has 1 year of experience in Dinkins, a guy who has almost no experience transferring in Keyshawn Silver. You needed to have Josiah Hayes step up. So I thought that was a significant development. But then also, I don't think it's technically a contract year for Yenzer, but it kind of is in that respect that like not only from a talent development perspective, but some of it is a talent acquisition problem at Kentucky where the recruiting dropped off some there. You had Wolford come in, but I mean, he got Big Dion here, but he didn't get a ton of other guys on that offensive line. And you need tackles. So far, they're doing the right stuff, right? Like the guys they've had on campus, Jaquan McCroy, they're in a good spot there. Yenzer's taking the lead on that guy who's a top 25 tackle, 4-star recruit in the country. Fred Johnson Jr., we got a story up on him. KSR coming up later tonight. That's another big-time offensive tackle. I'm missing another guy, Kai Greer. I believe he visited. There's 4 guys who are at least a 4-star one recruiting service that play offensive tackle that have been here in the last week. So they're at least getting these guys around. McCroy feels like they're in a really good spot there and could be the kind of bell cow of the class. But like they need tackles. And as we've seen over the years, that's a very difficult position to go portaling in. They've kind of lucked out with Dare Rosenthal, but that was a 1-year lease. Marcus Cox, same thing. But that's a hard position to find in the portal. And that's why Zach Yenzer, part of that contract year is securing some talented pieces for the future of this Big Blue Ball.
Yeah, and John Wayne Oliver out of Nashville is another name there at tackle. Top 500 recruit.
Such a badass name for an offensive lineman. John Wayne Oliver. That dude's a cowboy, right? Like if you're from Nashville named John Wayne Oliver, you got to like tuck your jeans into your boots and wear a cowboy hat when you show up to practice.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds definitely a name out of a Western. I think, like, on my recruiting spreadsheet that I keep here, the Yenzer's name's popping up a little bit, like not a lot, but more like a little more frequently. Recruiting wise, I think he's done some good things. Like he was on the Khalifa Keith recruitment, and that was a typical UK recruitment. How they notified a guy, or they found a guy early, got in on him, and then the late swing happened, and Tennessee came in, got him. Kentucky didn't have a great year, and they weren't able to hold on to him. But like he was the first one in on that, and so like something like the tackle developments on the recruiting trail, they got to close, but like they're on some good guys, and McRoy's a big one. If they can get him, that would be nice. But He's a huge dude. I don't know if he necessarily fits. Like if they want to play wide zone, I don't know a 6'8", 340-pound tackle is really what you want to do there. That's more of let's play gap and get downhill and power block, drive block. So we'll see. I mean, but he's an intriguing prospect for sure. So we just have to see how he does. But yeah, you're right. It's just a huge year for him. They got to kind of figure it out. He's got experience now. That's no excuse. So you got to figure. But the concern is, Nick, it's Horsey and Cox's last year. Marcus Cox's last year. So, like, you're gonna have to rebuild that left side next year. And I don't know who are the options there on that left side. I don't know. Not seeing Nick Hall this spring, it's a big disappointment. Like, what is he? We don't know really what he looks like because he's probably the long-term answer. I would assume they're at left tackle, and then I know they like Paul Rodriguez a lot. There are a lot of left guard. Grant Bingham's they're waiting in the wing. So, what does that look like? So yeah, he needs to show some proof of concept here. I think it's a huge year for Yinzer, and we're just gonna have to see how that develops. I mean, it's the elephant in the room surrounding the program. I think you can literally talk yourself into feeling good about every other spot. But what does the line looks like? I thought Yinzer had some good comments yesterday where he was like, January talked to the team is like, we've got to get back to playing our standard because the team's only going to go as far as we can take them. And I think that's true in a lot of ways because they are the huge weak spot right now. And if they get it fixed, there's a chance they could go make a run at 9-10 wins. But if they don't, they could be in a tough spot on offense again because you can only go as far as the line can go. And so that is what everybody's watching. It does, like, again, I don't think they need to be great. They just got to be some level of serviceable, some level of adequate. And then I think the offense can accomplish what it needs to accomplish. But the offensive line's got to hold up at some point. You got to hope the four starters we know are as good as we're expecting them to be. And again, I think Jagger Burton's huge there at center in accomplishing that goal.
The Big Blue Walls got to make it happen. They got to make it happen. There's no doubt about that. We did briefly touch on recruiting. Just wanted to mention that if you're a recruiting junkie, Gas Sport's popping right now. So $10 launch special. I still saw where there's like a flash sale for like $1 to join or something like that. So if you aren't on there, get on there because not only are we having updates of visitors like Bo Jackson coming in, the 2024 running back, not the – I love that this Bo Jackson also plays baseball.
I think he's 2025.
Is he? Oh, yeah, that's right. But they just offered a 24 running back. There's a lot of names out there. We're letting you know as soon as we do on KS Board. Jacob Polachek's talking to a lot of those guys as well. I know he had Ducks interrupt his interview with Jaquan McCroy. So that was a lot of fun. But check it out. Do it to it. I love that. I think it's Tyler who's on the chat watching. She wants to see the spreadsheet. If y'all, the spreadsheet has been kind to me too because I've got a link to it. I access that bad boy from time to time. This is a good resource. You got to expect Luckett to have the best spreadsheet information around, and also the expectations are high, Luckett, because you really delivered on the golf picks last year. You really did.
This ain't no hobby.
I got second in the Masters pool I was in and had multiple wagers cash. I ended up getting third overall in our season-long Masters pool because of this. And Luckett, I'm ready to ride with Luckett's Locks once again ahead of this trip to Augusta National, where I feel like we've got a ton of representatives there for KSR. So Luckett, who's going to win? Who's going to make us some money?
Yeah, I say this every year, Nick. Augusta is very much a second shot course. Like they've done their best to kind of since Tiger just bombed it. It's not every year, but they're making changes to try to like not get totally just gouged by guys that get off the tee. This year they extended that par 5 at number 13. Guys were just everybody was at least birding in that hole and getting like some shots at eagle and that hole. So that has extended it. Like this is going to be the longest Augusta has ever been, 7,545 yards. So there is going to be a level of like you got to get off the tee, but that's the people that score are the guys that score on the second shots. And so at Augusta, on the greens, there's all these slopes and runoffs. So you have to hit shots in a strike zone. And those who hit the shots in the strike zone are usually going to win.
Yep, clear your throat.
Excuse me.
Yep.
There's a par 3. I think everyone knows. I think it's 15-ish. One of the par 3s. It's kind of where Tiger won it, where he almost stuffed it. But you got to hit it in that little area. And I think there's the number 12 where everybody, like that's where everyone fell off when Tiger won the Masters. So,
and that's why that's why Tiger keeps coming back too, because like old
that's
man
why
golf
he won, right?
Yeah, same
right.
thing with oh gosh, it was Kenny Perry who melted down and he was I think he was in his 50s when he had that big lead and let it slip on Sunday. Old man golf can win here as long as you're accurate on your second shot.
Well, there's ghosts. Like you can feel it like on Sundays. That's why if Rory ever gets a position, it's just going to be fascinating to see if he could close it, because there's going to be a ton of pressure on him. And the second shot is not typically what he's thrived at over the years. But yeah, it's three things. Like you have to get off the tee a little bit, but you don't have to be a big bomber. Your irons and wedges will win you this tournament. And then you got to hit putts. They don't allow green books. So you have to have a feel for kind of how everything goes on these greens. So the more experience you have playing here, I think helps you win it. But that's two-sided though, because it's two-sided because I do feel like people do feel that pressure after a while if you haven't won here before. And so for me, I always go strokes gain approach is definitely the first one I look for, like metric wise. And Colin Morikawa, Nick, let's pull it up. I think he's number 2 in strokes gained approach. He's known as like the best iron player on the tour right now. He's got major pedigree. Won the 2020 PGA Championship, came from behind on Sunday. Won the 2021 Open Championship, came from behind on Sunday. It's only a matter of time before he wins this. He's got 4 top 10 finishes this season. I believe he finished 12th or he's finished top 5 last year at Augusta. He's going to win this tournament eventually, and he's got 28-1 odds here. Like we're seeing Scheffler, Rory, Rahm, they're all big favorites this year because they obviously what Scheffler did last year.
Awesome.
And then Rory since June, and Rahm since really kind of August. Like they just playing elite golf. So all the money's on them, but like Morikawa fits this tournament. He's gonna win this thing eventually. At 28-1 to win, it's just really good odds for him. That's one to watch. And even if he's within range after Thursday or Friday, you're probably going to get good odds on him because he's a guy that can we've seen him in his 2 major wins. He just closes fast. So he's one to watch for, I think, to win.
The one guy that I think is near that, I'm a little worried because I know he had the injury stuff late last year, but Will Zalatoris, he kind of did the Ricky Fowler slam where he was top 5 in every major last year, right? But he just couldn't close the deal.
Louis Oosthuizen slam, yeah.
Yeah, just like so close, but never went over the top. In my pools, he's like, where they have you kind of stagger them based on odds or whatever. That's at least how mine's staggered. He's, I think, in the second or third because he's coming off that injury. So I think there was some decent value. He's plus 330 for top 10. So I love the top 10 bets too, because you always get some pretty solid plus juice. And, I know there's only room for 10 of them, but still, like that's if you get a couple guys playing well, then you're cooking with grease.
Yeah, the thing I like about Zalatoris in the big tournaments, Nick, he really shows up to play. Like he plays some of his best golf in this tournament, but he's 76 in stroke gain approach this year, which is that's usually been a strength of his. So that's a bit surprising. And he's 136 of putting. So that worries me this week. And like, he's a guy would have been on the board, but he's fallen off in approach. So that would be a guy where I would stay away, but he has played well in these tournaments. He's got He's made 6 out of 7 cuts this year, 2 top 25 finishes. So I get why people would like him. For me, a top 10 who I like this week is Tony Finau. Tony Finau's played in 5 Augustas, 5 Masters. He's gone top 10 every other year. And it's an odd year. It's time for that means Tony Finau's going to go top 10. Yeah. So, he's number 13 ranked player overall in World Golf Ranking. He's number 3 in strokes gained approach this year, Nick. And he's got 3 top 10 finishes on this year in 10 events. You can get him top 10 at plus 180. Finau, it's the thing with him is like he never wins anything in these big tournaments. He's never in contention. Well, guess what? Top 10, you don't need him to be in contention. Just hang around there, maybe throw out a 6-7 on Sunday, get a T8, and let's cash the ticket. And so Tony Finau, top 10, I think it's got some really good value this week.
I do appreciate, though, Tony Finau being the consistent on the leaderboard, but not in contention on Sunday.
Yeah. That's okay. That could still make us money. And these, like the win bets are hard to hit. Like I think you're right about these top 10s, top 20s. You can still get some plus juice. And at top 10, you can get even more plus value. Like you can find some plus odds that have a pretty good chance to hit. And Finau is one. And then another top 20 is another one of my plays this week. Shane Lowry. I believe he's number 24 in approach, number 26 in strokes gained off the tee. He has 5 top 15 major championship finishes since 2019, including 3 consecutive top 25 finishes at the Masters. You can get a top 20 for Shane Lowry at plus 165. He's won the 2019 British Open. He's consistently hanging around top of leaderboard at majors. I think he's got some value there at plus 165 to finish top 20.
I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. I didn't have Scheffler last year, but I had somebody that came top 5 that was one of your recs. So, Luckett, I hope everyone's following along because it's fun. This is a nice way to it's a nice come down between from the college basketball season, and it's getting warmer out like that. It's just a good reminder, like, okay, college basketball is the kind of winter sport. This brings us into the summer season. The Batcats are rocking and rolling now, so that gives us something else to watch. This gets me kind of in Kentucky Derby mode. Canelan opens this weekend with the Bluegrass Stakes. So just that.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun,
I believe
dun.
Zalatoris was one we were in on last year with Masters picks. He finished T6. So that was our big one last year was Mino Pereira in the PGA Championship.
Yeah. That one came from out of the clouds.
Yeah,
and I think I only did top 20 in that one too, instead of top 10.
But I will say handicapping the Masters this year has been more difficult, Nick, just because
the damn live golfers, man.
We don't have any numbers on them. Yeah, so they're playing fake golf at these Mickey Mouse courses, and so I just don't these guys are just total wild cards. So I didn't even consider playing one of these guys, and so that it's made because. Also, what this does is some of the numbers on the PGA Tour, these are not as up to date because you don't have all the guys. Like we've got legit big boy golfers that we just that aren't even, when I look at Lowry, he's 24th in strokes gained approach, but he could really be like 35th, because these guys are out. So what kind of factor do these guys have when you look at the Louis Oosthuizens, the Brooks Koepka, who just won last week, Cam Smith, who's been an assassin at some of these majors, like Dustin Johnson. What do these guys bring? I don't know. Well, I'm just gonna have to wait and see. But another one I really like, Billy Horsch. Go ahead.
This is going to be the first time at Augusta we've had the live drama, correct? Where you actually had a large contingency of
this
players.
Is the first time where guys that have played in live and committed to live. And they're playing in the other one that they're really kind of going head to head. Because when Cam Smith won the British Open last year, he had not left yet.
Right.
So
but there were just rumors that he was going to.
Yeah, and then it was announced shortly after. So this is the first time they're really going to butt heads on that. And so everybody's wanting to see like a Rory versus Koepka on a Sunday or whatever. Or Rory versus Cam Smith or JT versus Cam Smith, guys who've been outspoken about the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, miscut, may cut is a bet a lot of people like. Billy Horschel has made 4 consecutive cuts at Augusta, but he's never been better than T38, so he's barely making cuts. He's 81st in strokes gain approach, so he's pretty far outside our metric. He miscut, got plus odds at plus 115. So that's one I like. And then again, if you're looking for wild cards, just pull up that strokes gain approach. That's kind of the metric I go by this week. I think Tom Hoagie is up there. He's only played in 1 Masters, but he's a guy I think we'll watch. He's number 1 in strokes gain approach. So those are the guys I would look at this week.
The man, we got a little bit of bad news on the basketball front. Good thing we're not a basketball podcast. Not great, Bob. Not great, Bob. Don't like seeing transfers leave after not really doing anything for a year. So that stinks. In lighter news, NFL draft. Look, it is smokescreen season. It is smoking a smokescreen. I mean, I don't know who Chad Forbes is. Isn't that the fake name that Eli Manning had when he went to try out for Penn State, right? Like it was something silly like that. I'm pretty sure that's the guy who had that tweet going around about Will Levis bombing interviews and all this stuff. That's something. The Colts are actually in town tomorrow to watch Levis work out in person. So that should be the
Colts are doing that where they're not going to pro days. They're going to all the quarterbacks, and they're kind of getting a private workout themselves. So that was one of my takeaways from pro days. Like, where are the Colts people here? But that's why. Now, I will say this, like Chris Mortensen has reported, Nick, that the interview stuff with Levis were mixed, but there are some teams that really liked him, some that were maybe put off a little bit. But like the workout stuff, I think people are a little – they don't want to – like they don't need their quarterback to have, really great pecs. So I think like the picture with Levis that he put up, I do think like that is getting some buzz and some steam about like what
but it's not like I think my favorite part about the workout stuff is like, yes, it's something to talk about now, but I think it just shows that Levis is working hard because he has right now that's all he has to do is to just work hard and get ready for the draft. So
yeah. And that's what more kind of reported out. Like the new tests are given that Bryce Young just aced, was number 1 in this class, like the recognition test. Mort is reporting that Levis was like he was pretty close to Young, like they weren't super far behind. Like it's him and all like the kind of cognition stuff. And a lot of people I think they're getting into they're seeing he's committed to football and all that. And really, when you kind of break down Levis. He's got a short, compact release, but he's tight. Like a lot of times he has problems like moving his feet to his target, and that leads to some of his accuracy issues. So all that workout stuff kind of ties into that. But what Mel Kiper said to that is like if that's a problem, they can draft him and tell him to stop working out. Like, if we think this is going to make you a better quarterback, don't do all that stuff, and he could stop. So that's just part of the smokescreen stuff and all that. Kiper still has Levis as his number 2 quarterback. And him and Todd McShay have gotten into some verbal kerfuffles about regarding it. So McShay had him falling to like 14 to the teens, and then the Bucs traded up to get him in his latest mock. Mortensen doesn't think he'll go fall out of the top 5, Nick, but there are like worries with him, I would say. But I still think he's going to go top 10, but we don't know. Though Anthony Richardson stuff is still pretty fascinating to me. Because I get it. I really do. Because what we've seen in the NFL, like QB run game is being valued now. And you can do all that stuff with Richardson and then play action pass, all that. I mean, I get why a team will want him. But like, the whole thing with him not starting with Holland has been really hard for me to get over. Like, why did he not start that year? Like, what was going on with him? And I get all the throws, and he can make every throw. And you see the deep post he hit against LSU, everyone's showing, where it's first play of the game, they schemed it up, and he just threw it right in the bucket, like a 60-yard throw right on the money. And then there's some highlights where he's terrifying. Like you go back to his redshirt freshman highlight, like against South Florida, and some of the stuff he's doing, like he's like you could see it. But that didn't come together really as a starter, and he couldn't start for Dan Mullen. Like, and Dan Mullen's offense is kind of like what they do at Florida with that QB run. That's kind of, he was the master of all that. Him and Urban Meyer, the first ones to really do that. So why didn't he start for him? I just can't get over that. But yeah, people are buying into that upside, and we'll see where he goes. Like, so I'm just fascinated. Who takes him? Who's going to take the swing on him? Because the draft really starts at 3. Like after Stroud and Young are drafted, what happens there with the next 2 quarterbacks? That is really fascinating, and something we're all just going to have to watch.
And then we had this other update today from Todd McShay, where he said that the Raiders are in on Stroud or Young.
I think a lot of them. I think a lot of franchises could be like that. I wouldn't be surprised if a handful of organizations have maybe like late first round grades on Levis and Anthony Richardson. So you have to, do we really want to spend this draft capital on a quarterback that's maybe more of a project?
Right. It's a roll of the dice. But then when you get a little bit further down, there's a lot of people who are going to say, oh, wow, we're outside of the top 10, but we can get a guy that we thought would be a top 10 pick.
Tennessee Titans.
Titans, Bucks, like maybe the Vikings, right? Kevin O'Connell looking for life after Kirk Cousins because next season is probably going to be his last. So it's
look at the teams with 2 first-round picks, right? Like the Lions at 6 and 18. They seem committed to Jared Goff, but you never know. The Seahawks just signed a 3-year deal with Geno Smith, but they can get out of that deal after 1 year. They're at 5 and 20. Those are the teams to kind of look at, the teams with 2 first-round picks that need quarterbacks. Like that's just where the real drama could come. But I definitely see a scenario where both Richardson and Levis can fall, and there's still the Lamar Jackson situation hovering above everybody's heads. There's still the Aaron Rodgers thing. We think Rodgers is going to the Jets. We don't know. If he doesn't go to the Jets, they really need a quarterback. They hold pick number 13, so what happens there? And then, like, there's been buzz with the Colts and Lamar. If the Colts go ahead and sign Lamar, what do they do at number 4? Like, there's just a lot out there that they still need to figure out, and it could be all of that could lead up to being a wild draft. Because the thing with Levis and Richardson both is they both have this NFL upside, and you can talk yourself into them very quickly. But the tape is the tape, and neither of them had a good year last year for a myriad of reasons. And so you have to sit there and ask yourself, am I really going to put my ass on the line drafting one of these guys and having to play them? If you're a GM, or if you're a decision maker, if you're head coach, whoever's making that decision for whatever NFL team, like, what do you want to do there? That's a tough call. Like, because they are very much, both of them are, you're taking a huge swing. Now it could hit. If it hits, it hit. If it hits, you're a genius. If it don't, you might be looking for a new job. But like, it's so weird because the top 2 quarterback, it's just easy. I would draft Bryce Young first, but I get it with Stroud. I think both of those guys are going to be good starting NFL quarterbacks. Whereas with Levis and Richardson, I could see it with both of them, but I definitely could see them not hitting as well very, very easily. A lot of it's going to be, I think, tailored to the coach they're partnered with, the situation. Where Young and Stroud, I think, they could more survive maybe a not great situation. Like Trevor Lawrence survived a not great situation, but he was a slam dunk prospect,
Right.
Whereas Levis And Richardson, they really need a good situation, and sitting for a year might not be a bad thing overall for them. And so but how these teams kind of manage it, it's going to be interesting because there's teams out there like the Falcons seem like a team like the Falcons and Commanders seem like teams like Lamar would be a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not doing it because it seems like the Falcons want to do the rookie contract situation, give Ritter a chance while they build up their roster. They don't want to get in salary cap hell like they've been in the past, like they got in with Matt Ryan. And then the Commanders have that whole ownership situation.
Yep.
So they're just kind of they'll seem like the two teams that would do it. And then like the Vikings are in salary cap hell with, they got the big old Cousins contract that they're trying to figure out. And there's all these teams, and Lamar's just kind of sitting there. And then if Lamar moves, what do the Ravens do, right? If the Ravens be able to trade, and what if they get the Colts number 4 pick?
It also feels like there's a concerted effort by the NFL. I'm not going to say to blackball Lamar, but like he's not playing ball on their terms, which is hire a damn agent to do all your negotiating for you.
It's that, and people are pissed about the Deshaun Watson contract that the Browns really messed it up for a lot of people.
Yeah, because
and
Lamar,
the Ravens president's even on record on that, saying like that's really not what we want to do, and Cleveland really kind of screwed us on this.
Nobody wants to give guaranteed money. Now the thing is like NFL contracts should be guaranteed, but the problem is if you're going to guarantee money, you have to put cash in escrow instead of just like guarantee that you'll have that cash later, which that's like something they put in the 70s to make sure teams wouldn't go under. It's a dumb rule. Like you just don't let them give out guaranteed contracts without having to put money in escrow. And that solves a lot of problems. But nevertheless, owners, they're very rich. They're very wealthy. They don't want to spend money on
well, I mean, a lot of it with Lamar
like this.
Lamar's playing style too.
Yeah,
he runs a lot.
Being hurt as of late as well. Yeah,
and he's missed time the last 2 years. So if you're committing $50 million a year and he's gonna only play in 65% of your games, it's like that's really like paying him almost $100 million a year because you're only getting so much out of him. And so that's part of it. And the agent thing is big. It's really kind of the Lamar situation is fascinating, and that's the huge thing that's got to get figured out, I think. And I think we're going to learn. It'll happen around the draft, and hopefully, Nick, we might be in Kansas City, and hopefully it happens around there. It could be an absolute zoo.
Yeah.
That's why I think like this has the potential to be the wildest draft, first round draft we've ever seen because of all these situations.
The Jets, if they don't get that done with Rodgers, like what? I mean, the fact that he went on that McAfee show like 3 weeks ago and nothing's been done. Like, what are we doing here?
I'm fascinated because it sounds like, we don't really see pick protections like the NBA has.
Yeah.
It sounds like the Jets want some protections in case Rodgers only plays a year.
Right. Yeah.
If
that's kind of what I've picked up as well.
And so that's kind of, to me, at least from my understanding, that's new territory here for the NFL that they're kind of going into. And then with the Lamar stuff, just the Lamar. I mean, it's just nuts. I thought since he didn't sign last year, I thought that it was going to end with Baltimore trading him eventually. And so I still think that's going to be, but it's just going to finding the trade partner and being able to do it. And since they tagged him with that non-exclusive, you got to get 2 first rounds for him, bare minimum. And it's probably going to need to be a sign and trade. Like you're going to have to trade for him, and you're going to have to sign him to a long-term deal. And so, just how does that work? It's just I don't know.
It's a mess.
And a lot of teams value this rookie contract so much. Like everyone wants to get on that, and I think that's the way to go. But my concern with that would be, what if quarterback position? What if it just dries up for 3 or 4 years? Because then it's not the way to go. Because it works when you've got Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Patrick Mahomes on rookie deals. It's not as good when you got a Baker Mayfield, a Zach Wilson on a rookie deal. You know what I'm saying? Like the quarterbacks that they have to be good. Like if it's going to work, they
Well,
have to be good.
Baker got the Browns to the playoffs, but no, I hear you. Just
Yeah,
insert
but
Jets
like
quarterback. Sam
yeah,
Darnold is that all? Yeah, yeah. You're
I don't
rolling the
know
dice
how
here. Yeah,
I
like
don't
it,
really know how good Jalen Hurts is going to be. I think he's like a top 10 NFL quarterback. Like that is I think that is kind of the example. Like if you could get like a guy with you don't have to have a top 5 quarterback per se on the rookie structure. If you have like a top 10 guy, you can potentially go and win a Super Bowl. And so I think that's NFL teams are more because they see how these quarterbacks coming in and having success. They're not going to be willing, to, I think, to spend on necessarily guys like Lamar, who are especially Lamar, because you have to consider the injury stuff because it's style of play. His style of
mm-hmm.
play is different. I mean, they're essentially running a option
OT.
offense in the
Mm-hmm.
NFL. Yeah, they're essentially running a single wing in the NFL, and to be with Lamar, you just got to have a good, powerful line and tight ends, and you don't necessarily need a wide receivers. And so if you sign Lamar, he hamstrings kind of the big deal kind of hamstrings you. And then you worry about it's just the whole thing with Lamar is fascinating. That the Ravens have done this and that it's in this situation is just wild. And I just don't know. He's going to land somewhere. Someone's going to pull the trigger. And I think it happens around draft time.
Yeah,
And once
because
that happens, then it's a domino effect of what happens with
people are
Levis.
going to get desperate. They're just going to get desperate, and they're going to make a move, and it's going to be exciting to watch. We might be there. We'll see. Waiting to hear back from the fine folks at the three-letter institution if we're going to be out in Kansas City or not. We will be back next week to wrap up spring practice. That's right. Spring practice is ending. It's reaching a conclusion with a couple more sessions next week. And then we get really into the thick of the off season. So they'll be recruiting and some other things, new transfer portal window.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on all of it for you. And Monticello Bank, they'll be with you wherever you go, NBCbank.com or the Go NBC mobile app. We appreciate them sponsoring 11 Personnel as always. I don't appreciate my dog scratching at the door. He's annoying the bejesus out of me. I mean,
it's Merle and Moose are up there doing the same thing. So you're not alone on that. Not alone.
No.
Yeah, Nick, I think the calendar is really going to – you've got – this transfer portal window in May is going to be a nice little change just for following. And after that, it's really 2024 recruiting season. Commits will start – every year around Derby, commits start flying off. You got the official visit season in June. That's a huge chunk of the recruiting.
Yeah.
And so you get a big buzz from that. And then
all of a sudden you're at SEC Media Days, just like that,
and all then you got the 4th of July commitment barrage.
Oh,
right?
God, those people are the worst. Also, Nashville, you're on my hot seat. Get the hell out of here. I'm so sick of that damn city and all the people. People, why? Nashville's fine. You don't need a gajillion people to live there. Tyler, you've been there a long time. You agree with me. More people suck. The more people, not the merrier. That's not always the case. It's just crowded, congestion. But you know what? I'm as long as those hotel bar beers aren't $9, like I'll be happy.
Well, what we're gonna have to do is just go to Midtown. Like we just can't. We don't need to do Broadway. We just go to
then
the
you
Mumbrian.
Can't run into T-Bob and God knows who else, crazy SEC media folks at the hotel bar.
Well, we'll just have to pick up a weekend job in Asheville before we go down. Just. Do we need to go pick up trash? How much can we get if we go and pick up trash on Broadway?
I'll be a bar back to pay for my tab.
Yeah. Can we rent one of the hot dog? Like, did somebody just rent those out to people? Are those like self-contractors? Can we just do that for a day? Can we just take a bunch of hot dogs out there and sell them?
Well, BYOHD.
Yeah. Yeah. Pay for KSR's beers this weekend.
Oh gosh. Oh, well, it's going to be fun, but we'll be here every step of the way.
You're right. Then media days will be here. Short drive to Nashville. I'm interested to see the event in Nashville. It's going to be the last SEC media days without Texas and Oklahoma. I'm wondering where they're going to put that first one with all of them there.
Oh, they'll do it big. I'm sure it'll be some sort of spectacle. They can't just go back to Hoover. Hoover is nice,
I wonder if I wonder if Hoover will ever get out of the rotation, kind of like Atlanta got out of the SEC tournament rotation.
Probably.
It's what it seems
I
like.
like Hoover, though.
It seems like, what is it like? I guess it seems like Atlanta would have a better infrastructure if they really wanted to grow it and get it bigger.
Yeah.
Because they could do it at the Football Hall of Fame. There's all those hotels down there. And then where do they put us in Texas? Do they do it in Dallas? That feels like the spot. They were going to move it to Texas.
Make it Austin. I'd much rather go to Austin. I know that's technically their home turf, but I don't care. Like, I don't want to go to Dallas and Jerry World. Like, give me the hippy dippy Austin stuff.
Yeah. They do love them some Nashville, though, Greg Sankey. He loves getting himself into Nashville. So I could definitely see that maybe becoming a semi-permanent home there for media days. Interesting to see the setup there at one of the Hyatts there in downtown Nashville. And we'll be there all week to provide ridiculous content.
Let's win some money this weekend watching the Masters. Let's enjoy the final few football updates we get of the spring season, and we'll be back with more next week. Happy Easter from the 11 personnel family. He's Adam Luckett. I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.